I'm really excited because today we're releasing a new plugin on balkanarchitect.com. So if you go to balkanarchitect.com and go to plugins, so we already have a cabinetry plugins for Revit, which I would like to encourage you to check out. But now we also have an architecture plugin for Revit. The BSAR plugin brings us a set of interesting tools for architecture inside of Revit. So everything that Revit was missing for architecture can be found in this plugin, and this video is going to be a demo of some of those useful features. Let's go. Now, before I jump into Revit, I would just like to encourage you to go to balkanarchitect.com. I'm going to be leaving a link up in the cards above and then also down in the description to this video. Apart from all of the courses, we also offer family packs as well as plugins, so it's definitely worth checking out. Now, without any further ado, let's jump straight into Revit. And here we are in Revit, and what you'll notice, I have a new tab here, the BSAR plugin tab, and these are all of the tools that we have here. So we're going to be covering a lot of them. I'm going to be showing you how to use the delete rooms tool. This is probably my favorite just because it solves the one of the most annoying problems I have with Revit. Then we're going to be talking about the anti-connection, the cutting walls and columns. We're going to be talking about split walls, replacing wall columns, the parameter wall to opening, and also about the line dimensions. So let's get started. Let's first cover the parameter to wall tool. So an annoying problem in Revit is that you can have a door on multiple different walls, and we don't have an automated way of displaying this information. So for example, this door can be hosted on different walls, and because those different walls can have different thicknesses, the frame of the door will need to be, well, different for each individual door. And we want to have an ability to display that in the door instance properties. Well, we can do that by using the parameter to wall opening tool. So what we need to do is we need to select the door on which our door is hosted. And then what we'll do is we will simply go to the properties panel and we can pick out a parameter that we want to use for this. So I suggest using identity data just because it's the same parameters for everything. And here in the comment, you can put the wall name or even just the width of that wall. So here I'm just going to type out 300 millimeter let's say frame. Okay, so now if I apply this change to the wall family itself, now what I can do is I can go here to parameter to wall opening. Here I can go and just select doors. Then I want to choose the wall parameter, so I used comments, so I'm just going to search here for comments, and then we need to choose the opening parameter. So on the door, which parameter we want to use, I'm also going to be using comments. And then I can just hit done, and parameters of opening have been filled in. So now if I select this door family and search for comments, here in the comments it's going to say frame 300 millimeter. So it's a very easy and automated way of displaying this really important information in all of our openings, so that means doors and windows. Moving forward, we have anti-connection, which is a tool that allows us to terminate or cancel a connection on selected walls. So if I select that and then select a wall, as you can see, it's basically going to be terminating the connection of any wall that I select in the model. Moving forward, the line dimension tool allows us to easily place dimensions on grids and walls. First, we need to set up the settings, so let's go to the settings menu, and in the settings menu you want to go to dimensions and then check grids and walls if you want to dimension both of those. Now I'm just going to hit done. Then we need to go here to finishing and pick out line dimensions. I'm just going to now click on one side of these grid lines, then click on the other side of the grid lines, and it's automatically going to insert a dimension line. I can do the same thing with walls, so if I go here to dimension line, I can go from here to here, and it's immediately going to insert a dimension line at between those two places where I have clicked. Moving forward, let's talk about the cutting walls and columns tool. It's very common that you would start a project and you would have the walls and columns going from the lowest level all the way up to the highest level. Now, at some point in project development, you usually want to split that in multiple columns and multiple walls, going just from one level to another. Luckily, we have the cutting walls and columns tool, which can automate this process. So what you need to do is you need to click on walls and columns tool, and then you first need to select walls and columns. So I'm just going to click this one, and then I'm going to hit finish. Now I can select the grids that I want to use to cut these. So I'm just going to select all 4 grids, hit finish again, click OK, and now you can see that this wall has been divided into multiple walls and basically being cut by the grid. Now, of course, you don't have to cut with all grids. So in the case of this column, let's repeat the same process, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a couple of grids, so just the level 2 and level 3, and now when I hit finish, you will see that the level 4 and the level 1 did not cut this column. Now let's move on to the split walls tool. It's very common when it comes to architecture projects to start off with walls with multiple layers, but then through project development you might want to split those walls into multiple walls, one wall for each layer. The split walls tool allows us to automate this process. So here we have this interior wall that has metal studs in the middle and then gypsum wall boards on each side. So I'm just going to select that wall and click on split walls. This will bring up the separating wall layers menu. Here we can choose each wall layer and then we can pick out a replacement type. Now I've already prepared replacement types, so these are walls that have the same thickness as these layers. So I can just assign same ones for each of these. So gypsum wallboard walls and metal stud layer walls here for the thicker layer. And now before hitting done, you also want to specify where you're going to be putting doors or windows. So let's put it on the middle metal stud layer. Now when I hit done, what you'll notice is that here these are now multiple individual walls. So here we have 2 walls. It just looks like one because of the graphical options that we have on, but these are indeed 2 walls, and overall these are 5 walls forming this one interior wall. Moving forward, the next tool that we're going to be covering is going to be the replacing wall column tool. It's another very common practice when it comes to architecture projects in Revit, is to model your columns as walls, and then at some point during the project development you might want to change those walls into actual column categories, or you might have columns that are column categories that you would like to change for walls. It really depends on the next step in the process and what you need for that. Now, to automate this process, we're going to be using the replacing wall column tool. Here we have 3 wall segments. You can see that these are walls. The wall type is generic 300 millimeter, and the length of each of these segments is 450 millimeters. Now I already have a column corresponding to these dimensions, so what I'll do is I'll simply click on replacing wall columns. Then I'm going to make a cross selection of all 3 columns. Hit finish. Here we basically have displayed that this is a generic 300 millimeter wall, length is 450 millimeters, category is indeed walls, and the replaceable type, I'm just going to pick out this concrete column 400 by 300 millimeters, and now we simply need to hit done, and it's going to replace those with the columns themselves. And of course, at any point you can use the same tool to bring these back into walls instead. Moving forward, let's now talk about delete rooms. This is a really useful tool because it covers one of the issues that I have with Revit, and that's how it manages rooms. So let me demonstrate a few of these issues. So here we have these three sets of 4 walls, creating a room, I'm just going to go to the Architecture tab and use the Room tool, and I'm going to place a room in each of these. Now, in addition to that, I'm going to show you here in the room schedule the rooms that appear. Now, what happens if we select this room and hit delete? What you'll notice is that we're going to get this warning that says it's deleted from the model, but it still remains in the project, and that's also visible here in the room schedule. Also, I can come to this wall, delete it, and now this room is not placed properly because it doesn't have a proper enclosure region. And finally, let's say I make an accident and I place 2 rooms over each other, and then Revit is going to give me another kind of warning. So here we now have 4 rooms, and only one of these is actually a properly placed room that I can use, and the rest of these are basically mistakes that are just kind of hanging around in my Revit project. So by using the delete rooms tool, I can solve all of these issues. So I'm just going to click on delete rooms, and here we can choose, do we want to delete unplaced? I want those. Unenclosed, exactly the same, and redundant, those 2. Now if I hit done and click OK, what you'll notice is now we have only that one proper room left, and the same thing goes here with the schedule. Only one room is left, and all of the other ones, they're redundant rooms that we don't need, have been deleted. I hope you have enjoyed this video where you have seen some of the capabilities of this amazing plugin. Again, I would like to encourage you to check it out. I will be leaving a link to it up in the cards above, and then also down in the description of this video. So if you need these extra tools to make sure that you are more efficient and save more time, well, this plugin is definitely for you.